Corn rootworm is one of the worst insects you can get on your farm. And in our area, for example, we're not only seeing it in continuous corn, we're seeing it in first-year corn as well. So today we want to talk about how we're going to control it, even if it's resistant to some of the BT traits.
Okay, the two worst things about corn rootworm are, number one, that you don't see them until they emerge as adult beetles late in the season. A lot of people really aren't worried about the beetles because unless they're super thick, they really don't cause that much damage. The other thing with corn rootworms is there is no rescue treatment. Even if you do figure out, oh my goodness, I have all these worms feeding on the roots of my corn plant, this is bad, there's nothing you can do about it. You already missed your window of either picking the right hybrid or putting an insecticide down at planting time. So you've got those two things going against it. And for those reasons, Brian, I don't see many farmers really scouting for rootworm. And if you're not aware of how bad the problem is,
yeah, but here's the whole thing. When do people realize that they have an issue with rootworm? When they see lodging out there. Okay, but by the time they see lodging, the rootworms are all gone. They're probably only going to feed on your farm for a month. In our area, we're looking at the month of June. That's basically it, or maybe late May to late June, something like that. And then they're done. Then you're gonna have rootworm beetles later in the summer, but they're only in that rootworm stage for a short amount of time. They're doing a tremendous amount of feeding and damage right then. So here's the thing. You've gotta do something pre-emerge, either with seed or with insecticide, or maybe the combination, if you're gonna have decent control on your farm.
Okay, let's talk about the traits, because there is some resistance to some of the single corn rootworm traits that are out there, and I don't care which single trait you use. With the traits, I just look at it on my farm, where I've got continuous corn, and even in our first year corn, I like the Smart Stacks type traits better just because we've got two different sites of action working there that I don't have to worry about resistance nearly as much.
Yeah, and we literally have had resistance right here on our farm, in our area. It's a huge issue. So if you're gonna go with a single trait BT, it's going down. That's not enough. So a lot of people are saying, well, this year corn's high priced and price of corn isn't that great, so I think I'm just gonna cut the traits. I don't need that. We don't really advise you to do that either. If you've got a major problem, especially if you're corn on corn, use two traits. But then in addition to that, use an insecticide. So if you start thinking, well, I'm just gonna go away from the traits. Well, you know what? We had that 10 years ago. How great was that? It wasn't, because the best insecticides, Force and Aztec, they're 90 to 95% control. That's it. If you've got 100 million rootworms out in your field, how good is 90 or 95%? Yeah, it's going to help, but you're probably still losing 5, 10, 20 bushels if you were to get 100% control. And if you get the two trait rootworm hybrids, you know what? You're probably going to get close to 100% control there. The reason why you also want to use insecticide is just to make sure. So you've, in effect, got another mode of action out there. Keep in mind that before that rootworm is going to die, it has to feed on the root.
That's where I was going. For these BT proteins to work, they don't go out into the environment. They're inside that plant. So the bug has to come, take a bite out of those BT proteins and get it into their gut.
A bite out of the root.
Yeah, and that's how those bugs are going to be controlled. The great thing about these BTs is they only control certain bugs. So for environmentalists, they love these traits if they really think about it, because wow, what's the alternative? We use an insecticide that kills almost every bug out there. Well, why do that when we only have certain species that we're really worried about, like corn rootworm? So if we can use that insecticide, we can control those bugs before they take bites out of the root, which is great, because anytime you've got a bug taking a bite out of a plant, you've got a chance for a fungus or a disease to get inside that root.
Okay, so here's what we want you to do. If you've got a major rootworm problem, we encourage you, use an insecticide. Use a two-trait rootworm hybrid. Do both of those things. And also with that insecticide you're using, use the full rate. Again, this is if you've got a bad problem on your farm. Then follow up post-emerge when you see adult rootworm beetles with some type of control. And most any insecticide is going to control them post-emerge. You're probably going to have to fly this on because it's usually around tasseling time. But if you've, let's say, got a high boy of some sort, you can spray it yourself. But if you do those three things, insecticide in furrow, along with two-traded BT hybrid, along with post-emerge spraying later on, the odds are pretty high. You're going to have outstanding control and outstanding yield.
Okay, I still have two more things we haven't even talked about yet, Brian. First of all, what do you think about these seed treatments at high rates? I know they've had flowability problems in the past, and they've improved the flowability of those products.
Yeah, they don't work. I mean, you're talking 50% control. So that stinks. I wouldn't even do it. Don't even waste your money.
Okay, then let's talk about the worst yield robber, weed for weed, in soybeans, volunteer corn.
Yeah, it's not just the worst yield robber. It also is a great host for corn rootworms. Okay, you've got to kill that volunteer corn early. Then you're going to kill the host for corn rootworms. Well, if you want top yields, you've got to get corn rootworms under control, but you also have to control our weed of the week. We'll tell you how to do it on your farm coming up next.